So this is a video of me riding my new 3-year-old off-the-track thoroughbred Winston, and this is our 5th ride together. Today just kind of worked a little bit on the flat. I ended up popping him over a couple of cross rails just to remind him that it was a fun thing to do. But today I'm just going to talk a little bit about what I do to get these horses going when they get off the track. So you can see here, I'm just trying to get Winston to move off of my leg. We hear a lot about inside leg to outside rein, and that's basically my entire basis for what I do with these young horses. So in this moment, I am just trying to get him to move off my inside leg at all 3 gaits. You could see there at the walk, but then going into the trot. That was actually a pretty nice transition for a young horse, and he has such a nice steady gait to him. He really is neither a kick ride or a pull ride. He just kind of naturally goes in a good tempo. But I try to keep my young horses at a slower trot. Obviously, with these thoroughbreds, we can always teach them to go faster. That's their innate want to go fast. So slowing it down to the point where he's thinking through every stride. Now, the beauty of this horse is that he actually is pretty responsive off my leg and hand. So I'm doing a ton of change of direction just to constantly change the bend on him, but always thinking that we're not just opening the inside rein, but also closing the outside rein. A lot of the time, these horses, especially these young thoroughbreds, can almost overbend and avoid the contact just as easily by overbending and curling as they can simply by bending correctly. So this horse actually bends a little bit easier to the right. He actually almost avoids your left rein more than your right rein, and constantly trying to not have him overbend to the right to escape the contact. And when he goes long and low like that, I don't worry about it. I would actually rather have a horse go long and low than be fussy. So when he gets fussy, like you see here, just maintaining the contact and consistently asking for that same bend. And then when he relaxes, I soften. And I don't make a huge adjustment of softening. I'm not going to drop my reins on him and constantly throw them at him, but rather when I soften because he did the right thing, it's more so just holding the pressure where it was. And because he's coming to find the contact when I hold that pressure, by him accepting that contact, he's rewarding himself. So you can see here, he actually has a truer gait to the left, but it's honestly just that initial change of direction that he doesn't quite understand. So constantly changing directions, making sure that I'm preparing him for that change in direction, and then when he does it correctly, making sure that my aids soften. He has actually a very lovely trot to him. But just you can see here with a young horse, it's just constant. When he does the correct thing, I reward him by softening. When he doesn't do the correct thing, I keep asking. You can see me there giving him a quick pat because he actually did a change of direction from right to left and bent to the left immediately. He's such a nice horse. For this to be his 5th ride off the track, and the fact that he actually totally seems to understand what's being asked of him and not throwing much of a temper tantrum besides a swish of the tail, he's quite nice about it all. Coming back to the walk, this horse already has pretty nice balanced gait, so starting to work on those transitions. That was a little bit fussy. We obviously saw a slight head toss for the first couple of strides, but then you can see here he settles right in to a pretty consistent, nice, happy trot. I would take this trot with this level of contact all day long on a 5th ride post-track. But again, coming down to the walk, you can see I stay out of the tack. These horses coming off the track don't really understand a ton of pressure being applied to their back, so less is more until they actually learn what a deep seat means. This horse definitely does not know. But as most horses, when he comes back to the walk, he gets a little bit fussy. He doesn't really understand why we're slowing down or what that walk means. So I kept asking until he did what I was asking, which was to move off my left leg. And then I, gave him a big pat and off we went again. Much better transition that time. You can see he accepted the contact a lot quicker. Only took about a half a stride for him to accept the contact. And then he goes into a lovely trot. Again, just a really nice, amicable baby. So changing directions, I love here, you can see that he's not fussy upon change of direction from left to right, which is really nice. And then he just really holds a pretty nice, steady contact to the right. Again, a little bit deep there in the contact, but I'll take that all day versus a U-neck. Just a really nice mover. This horse is mature beyond his age of 3, which is nice to work with and kind of just a joy to ride every day. You can see here I'm letting him stretch long and low. If he wants to go long and low, but his rib cage and his shoulder and his haunches are maintaining where they should be, he can do whatever he wants. It's only when his body gets crooked that I'm kind of unaccepting of him pulling the reins out of my hands. There you go. Obviously, teaching these young horses how to stretch is quite essential, and he's really getting it a little bit. He's quite nice to work with. That's a really nice trot there. Yeah, just stretching a little bit longer than we would want, but for an intro test or a training level test, it's perfectly acceptable to have that kind of frame. And here again, making sure that I tell him we're changing directions. And that was probably our nicest right to left change of directions. Just a little bit of fussiness right there, but I then put my inside leg on and he got it. So gave him a big pat and let him know that those 6 minutes were a job well done. So here we have working on a little bit of canter. And for a young horse like this, it's kind of essential just that we pick up the correct leads and that we move nicely off of our legs and don't really have much of a temper tantrum. This horse is actually pretty nice in that he does get both leads pretty nicely. You can see not the best transition, but just staying out of the tack, staying out of his face, letting him realize that cantering softly should be rewarded, and there's no really big hoop-de-doo about this. A little bit of braking there to be expected. I would actually rather have these young horses break than bolt, and just got back out of the tack and tried to get him going forward again. What I'm trying to work on with this horse at the canter right now is sitting up and sitting on his back. And you can see every time I do it, he breaks, which is a little bit to be expected. These horses on the track, even when the riders are riding long, they're still up and out of the tack. So kind of decided to abort mission at this moment and then just stay out of the tack. And he actually has a really nice canter. It's quite easy and nice to jump out of, and just a joy to ride. He's very soft. He's not pulling. He's not heavy. He's quite off of his forehand. So, did a little bit of right lead and then asked him to change directions. Again, that right to left change can be a bit tough for him. You can see me get after him here. He's learned how to do it, and now he has to listen. So a little bit of extra inside leg, inside rein. But then once he softens and trots nicely, I just get out of his face and let him go. So again, using that corner to help you pick up the correct lead, realizing that many of these horses have been picking up their leads on a straightaway, and that most of these thoroughbreds come with a lead change, which is quite nice. But still, having him learn that outside leg means, pick up our left lead, right leg, left lead, etc., etc. So just want to really make sure that he's in a nice balanced trot before we ask for that lead, and then ask for it in that corner, letting that corner help us. That was actually a really nice transition there. You can see, gave him a big pat for doing it. Try to sink my weight in a little bit, but he slowed down, so I got back out of the tack and just let him roll. Again, the most important thing for these early post-track rides is simply the correct lead and the fact that he went forward with no complaints. Again, this horse has a nice, lovely 12-foot stride, almost on the slower side, but I think that the impulsion will come when I'm able to sit my butt in the saddle and push him forward. But really just a really nice canter. No pull. I love the fact that he picks up both leads quite easily. So nice, and back to the trot, and gave him a big pat for doing exactly what I asked him to do, and on to the next thing. So kind of last but not least in our ride, I just wanted to pop him over a cross rail or two and see if our jump round that we had about 2 days ago just resonated in his mind. Just wanted to trot a cross rail. The lovely part about this horse is that he seems to trot in quite nice and steady, and almost every single time he lands at a beautiful canter, which you can see there. Just a really, really nice soft canter. So got our lead change. He kind of had that initial first jump at the trot and figured, what, let's pick up our canter and see what he does to the next jump, another jump that he's only ever seen once before, and keep on cantering. This horse, like I said earlier in the canter, he has a really nice 12-foot stride. It's quite easy to be able to pick out your distance on a horse like this because he just stays at such a nice, consistent tempo. So you can see his ears are up, he's happy, and I think he's caught the jump bug. Get a little trip here. Oh God, it's fine. And then again, just a nice simple lead change. Pick up our left lead. Again, it's so nice that this young horse gets his lead so easily. And the solo shot doesn't really do me a lot of justice here, but you can see him again coming around this turn, and he sees the next jump. It has a nice big filler underneath it. His ears are up. He locks on, and he just kind of figures it out. It's really nice. I love those aha moments on those young horses. Just a good dude.